The 1,500-acre Bolinas Lagoon and the surrounding wetlands is a prized habitat sanctuary and the first estuary on the vital Pacific Flyway to be included on the Ramsar Convention's list of wetlands of international importance. Because of this extraordinary resource, on July 22, 2008, the Marin County Parks and Open Space District held a comprehensive oil spill emergency response exercise at the inlet of this ecologically sensitive lagoon. We spoke with Susan Adams, Marin County District 1 Supervisor, Chris Godley, Manager of Emergency Services for the County of Marin, and Brian Sanford, Superintendent of the Marin County Parks and Open Space District.
Following the November 2007 Cascade Boom oil spill, it was pretty clear that the oil would travel out the Golden Gate and up the coast, if you would, north along the Marin County coast in the Pacific Ocean. And it's very clear that the Bolinas Lagoon was threatened by this oil spill. And so local residents, community groups, national parks, but most importantly the County Parks and Open Space District mounted an effort to try to basically put protective boom in place to keep the oil from coming into the lagoon. And that failed during that event because the waters are so dynamic and have such a strong power there as you go in and out of the lagoon. And so the goal for this exercise was to take a look at new strategies that have been developed after that event and see which ones actually would work in that environment.
It's very important for that particular area that we have an opportunity to see if what we have on paper and plans will actually work in the event of a real oil spill catastrophe.
When an oil spill occurs, the people that respond and try to either clean up the oil or put protective boom in place are hired contractors. These are individuals that work with oil spills throughout the country and are flown in by whoever caused the spill to clean up the mess.
What we saw with the oil spill was there was a great deal of community involvement, but unfortunately the community wasn't fully aware of the toxic nature of the materials, of the need to protect themselves, and also the spread of this material further out into the community. People are showing up in their regular street clothes to try to clean up oil.
There are several risks involved in going out on a beach, for example, that has oil on it. There are slip and fall injuries. Even the professionals that responded in November of last year cracked their heads wide open and broke arms and legs, and so climbing around the rocks in oil is tough stuff. There are weather conditions, sneaker waves that sweep people off into the ocean is a real threat in West Marin. But also, more importantly, the oil itself really poses a significant health hazard. Experiences from oil spill response and cleanups from around the world have showed that people that have gone out onto these beaches, even those that have been trained and protected, develop skin rashes. They develop long-term issues like cancer, respiratory infections, respiratory breathing difficulties. And so it's critical to understand that although there may be oil on the beach that needs to be cleaned, we may simply wait for professional staff that have the appropriate training and equipment to take that on rather than relying on volunteer efforts. That said, we are continuing to explore opportunities to use volunteers safely to meet the threat of oil spill cleanup.
Training is key to the ability for our not only community members but our first responders to be able to put the plan into action. One of the challenges that we had on that night, the day and night and the subsequent days when the oil spill had occurred, was that contractors had come from out of state and were working in an area that they were not familiar with, and there were some hazards that they weren't quite ready or trained or able to address that could have resulted in loss of life. It was a very scary time, and even our own staff members were doing yeoman's job in trying to get the booms out under winter conditions where the storm, the surges are higher and the conditions are different and a little more volatile. So when you have the ability to test systems under a controlled environment, under perfect conditions, you have an ability to then see what you need to do and to give people an experience and an opportunity to actually have the hands-on with the materials.
In Marin County, we've taken a different tact in that we wanted to develop a more local approach to protecting the Bolinas Lagoon, where local community members, public safety agencies, and parks and open space could immediately spring into action and put protective boom in place rather than waiting for these contractors to arrive on scene. And so the training is absolutely critical for these individuals because not only do they is this a new skill for them to learn? It's also, there's a safety element to be considered here, but because there are multiple agencies working together that normally don't work together. So it's a great opportunity to reinforce those community relationships as well as conduct the training.
The role of local people is very important in that they know the currents, the tides the best. The mouth of the lagoon switches, the sandbar switches there. Other responders from coming out of the area don't know these things. They know the currents, they know when the tide changes and how fast it'll be going. So it's important to have those people on site to work with my staff and other agencies that are coming in to give us that local knowledge to help put those strategies into place as fast and as best as possible.
It's that local flavor, that local expertise, which is going to allow these plans to actually be successful.
Our goal is to have a first responder group of people that can get on scene at Bolinas Lagoon within an hour to start putting in protective strategies to prevent any type of pollution or oil spill to coming in.
We had over 20 agencies from state, federal, and local government and community participants involved in this exercise. And one of the problems and the challenges that we experienced during the last oil spill was that people weren't communicating as well as they could have between each other and allocating tasks and being able to feel confident that those tasks would be accomplished with the ultimate goal of protecting the Bolinas Lagoon, which is a national treasure. And the opportunity for us to work with these agencies then gives all of us the experience to put into action a coordinated effort if this kind of incident happens again in the future.
Well, there are about 20 local, state, and federal agencies, as well as the private contractors on scene. The local agencies include both Stinson Beach as well as the Bolinas Fire Departments and districts. We had the Parks and Open Space District. We had the Homeowners Association there from Stinson Beach. We also had a participation from the State California Department of Fish and Game. We had state parks, we had national parks, we had the U.S. Coast Guard, the Environmental Protection Agency. There were quite a few, little alphabet acronyms running around out there. It was a good day to really see what all levels of government unified look like in a response.
The drill and exercise went very well. It was very successful in many ways. The most important was it pulled us all together as a group of local responders, and we learned the same techniques on how to deploy different strategies.
The strategies need a little work. We looked at the initial attempt to simply put a boom across the mouth of the lagoon. That would be pretty straightforward, common sense. Just put one boom, nothing goes in, nothing goes out, except that the currents are too strong to allow for that. And the oil just simply either washes over or underneath the boom. And so the strategies that were developed later in the day of the exercise seem to be holding the most promise for not only getting the oil off the lagoon and onto the beach where it can be cleaned up and collected, but also strategies that locals can actually execute. They're not too technical, they don't involve a lot of specialized equipment. This is something that we can do.
And one of those strategies is working with Cascade Boom, which is usually used in rivers because of the swift currents. Bolinas Lagoon is very unique like that because of the tidal action that comes through the mouth of the lagoon at an average of 3 to 5 knots.
If we put the booms correctly, we can kind of scrape the oil as the current brings it in the lagoon and kind of draft it right up onto the beach, where skimmers and other collection materials can actually kind of scoop up the oil before it goes further into the bay.
So we all trained on the Cascade Boom deployment, which was very interesting, and from what the crew said, difficult to do, but once you did it a couple times, it works.
We're not fighting Mother Nature here. We're attempting to work with Mother Nature and maximize our ability to, essentially harness, like you just pointed out, the power that's available in these tidal actions and put the oil where we want it to go so that we can collect it.
The training exercise was very important because it pulled a group of local responders together and taught them how to use different techniques in putting out booms safely, working together in a unified structure, and being prepared so we're all on the same page so when the next spill occurs that we could react to it as quickly as possible.
We're one of the few local jurisdictions that have had our strategies actually changed as a result of the experiences in the Cascade Boom, and that plan will be published in either late September or October of this year. In addition to which, we're going to publish our oil spill plan for Marin County people. What do we do here locally as Marin County governments and local organizations? But most importantly, we're also going to be developing equipment that will be stationed on scene out there at Bolinas Lagoon just for oil spill response, so that when an event does occur, the responders can go to the scene, grab the equipment, and make it happen right away.
We're also at the same time working on developing training exercises that would be same-day event. You know, if people already have hazmat training or certification, they can show up and say, I've got this, we can put them right to work, they know what to do. If there are other community members that want to participate, we're developing a brochure that will be able to distribute to volunteers who show up and explain to them what they need to do in order to participate in the actual cleanup efforts.
All of our staff is trained on a number of different things, from water safety to wildland firefighting, but this is new to us about responding to oil spills. So it's important that I want to be involved in that, so I know what my staff is learning, and so I can help run the next emergency, shall we say.
Our Office of Emergency Services, our Parks and Open Space, our fire and law enforcement staff did an incredible job in helping us to get through that oil spill, and I have every faith that as we work through this process, we will give them the tools to be able to help us get even better results in the future. We're very fortunate to have such a dedicated and committed group of civil servants working for our community.